Hey everyone, hope everyone's having a great day. I just want to share a short kind of experience about the time I actually stopped drinking alcohol for 5 years and then ended up trying to moderate. Um, and then unfortunately ended up getting into bad habits again and just becoming the binge drinker I used to be. And thankfully I'm alcohol free now, and it's a big regret of mine. And I'd actually stopped drinking in July, or no, it was September. It would have been September 2017, and I didn't drink for 5 years, and then all of a sudden got on the wagon again, so to speak, and quit alcohol again this year after about 2.5, 3 years of back drinking, binge drinking again. Friday, Saturday nights, the odd midweek night, and so basically what had happened was that I decided after maybe about 4.5, 5 years that I wanted to kind of start drinking again. And I think there was kind of two reasons for that, or maybe it's one reason put into two. But we obviously had COVID, and there was quite bad lockdowns in Scotland. They must have lasted years, and I wasn't drinking at the time. And I think that's a bit of a godsend, to be honest, because I can imagine sitting at home, working from home all the time, nothing to do. There would have been a lot of binge drinking going on. And I know for a fact a lot of people watching this would have been the same. A lot of my friends were the same, and just wasn't a really good time for anyone. Just couldn't leave the house pretty much for months and months on end. And people would get excited with um, everything opening up again, and then you would end up at everything closing, and you're back to square one. And I remember walking home. I was really busy at the time. I had my own business, and I remember I was walking home, and I just decided that there and then that, you know what, I'm going to start moderating. And I think the the big issue for me was that I just stopped getting invited places by friends, and that was kind of my kind of lifelong friends, and still friends with all of them today. I speak to most of them anyway, kind of once a week at least. And I think what had basically happened was that there's a few occasions where people would visit down in Edinburgh, and I would get a phone call and maybe or a text message on the Monday telling me how good Edinburgh was, and I kind of asked, oh, why wasn't I invited? And they would just say, oh yeah, well, we're in the pubs all the time, it doesn't matter. And I could kind of can see that a bit, argument a bit, maybe especially if there's a concert and maybe a spare ticket going, or there was the rugby on or the football on or some event, and the person had a spare ticket. They might be not been out for a couple of weeks because they've got young kids or they're married, so they really want a good kind of drinking session. And that kind of led to me kind of, I'd probably be down the end of the pecking order. So I'd kind of just I'd lost track with all my pub friends. You just kind of die out. And if you're thinking about quitting at the moment, and I think it's a big issue for a lot of people that what what about my friends? But they kind of just drift away after 6 months, or even before that. The habit of drinking, which I do think is hugely habitual for binge drinkers. Of course, there are people with kind of serious issues, but I think, like I say, I've said before, I'm just the kind of UK quintessential binge drinker who was kind of grew up in the late 90s, and I'm 41 now, so kind of started drinking the late 90s and the early 2000s. It was cheap booze. It was kind of glorified in the press. All the rock and roll stars who you looked up to were smokers and drinkers. So it was just a different time. But I'd made that decision, and then thought to myself, I'm gonna moderate now. And I remember going to the pub and having 4 beers and then leaving. And I was, like I said, I mentioned before, I had a business at the time. I was working a lot, so I remember having 3, 4 pints, and I was quite tired and that, and I thought, oh, this is great. And then probably that went on for a good couple of months, where maybe two times a week, maybe not even three, I was going to maybe a local pub and just having a few beers and then going home. And I really thought I could moderate. Um, but then, as normal, it just started getting bad habits again. I was maybe saving it for the Saturday night, and before you knew it, a Friday night was creeping in. And then when you go out the Friday, on the Saturday, you might need a hair of the dog, or you might have had another night out on the Saturday, and then you're dying on the Sunday. So you're either dying in bed, and then or you're meeting somebody again because you've been out the last 2 nights. You've still got a bit of a buzz, and it ended up just being a huge failure for me. I ended up, like I say, getting into really bad habits, and I think it was probably maybe about a year down the line, I was just back into the old habits. Um, I kind of look back and wonder why I did moderate in the beginning, and I think it was a mixture of I had the business at the time, and by the time I was up so early and I was working 12 hours a day, so at the end of it, I think just after 2 3 beers I was knackered. But in my head, I kind of thought that I'm going to moderate, and also there was a you're kind of just yeah not being really honest with yourself, and maybe you did want more, but you just kind of stamp your foot down and think, you know what, I'm done now. I'm away home, and you kind of give yourself a pat on the back that you're able to do this. And I remember being totally delighted with myself that I could do it. So it ended up kind of not going well, and but like I say, in hindsight, I just think it was the main reason definitely was just a mixture of that being alone during COVID. I'd actually moved to Manchester at the time, didn't know a lot of people. Just those years of not be doing anything, and then when everything kind of opened, it was slow opening, and then I just kind of had one of these moments where I was just like, I need to get out more, and just stupidly decided that going to the pub was the best thing rather than choosing a hobby. So my advice is, if you are sitting there, so I'm sure there's a few people listening to this as well that have kind of relapsed, or they made that bad decision to go back, is just it leads down to the same path that you were on before. I'd be absolutely amazed if I watch a YouTube video or meet somebody who was a binge drinker or a heavy drinker, and now they happily moderate, having two or three drinks. If you can do that, hats off to you. It's absolutely brilliant achievement. But I think for the vast majority of us, it leads down to the same path. The bad habits come in, and before you know it, maybe even quicker than a year, you might just be sitting there like I did, thinking, I can't believe I got back into these bad habits. And thankfully, after an absolute hangover from hell again, which was the worst anxiety in the world, I decided to go alcohol free again. But like I say, stay off the booze. It'll just lead down to the same path. And you'll just be so annoyed with yourself one day when you wake up and realize that you're back to your old habits. It's just not great. Thanks for listening. Releasing daily videos at the moment, and please like and subscribe if you like the video. Take care. Bye.